In this episode of the Podcast Industry Brief, we're asking the question, if your podcast doesn't include video, are you making a huge mistake? We're also going to take a look at Spotify for creators and some new updates that rolled out there. Then we're going to hop over to Amazon and see what's new with Alexa Plus and podcasting, plus a plethora of other stories. So let's get into the news. Let's kick things off with this article from the Streaming Wars entitled Video Podcasts Reach 20% of Internet Users as YouTube Extends Its Engagement Lead. You heard that right, folks. 20% of global internet users watched a video podcast on a social video platform in the past month. That's as of Q3 2025, okay? The article then goes on to say that's not niche behavior, that is mass reach. Absolutely. Now, a couple things I want to highlight from this article, and I highly encourage you to go through and read this because I think it lays out a really interesting view of where the space is at right now. We see YouTube at the core of a lot of what is happening, right, with video podcasting, and they have this ability to create this like sticky situation of people coming in not only for full video podcasts, but also the clips, the shorts. Now, YouTube Music also has the audio side of it. And so it kind of is like this one-stop shop. They've created this like very seamless place for people to consume that content. Not to mention that they have years, decades at this point, of just time building that customer interaction, right? Of like, that is how we consume content when we're looking for particular content creators, people, where you're going to go, YouTube. So all the other streaming networks are starting to play catch up, right? We saw a couple of months ago, Netflix announced a deal with, I believe it was like iHeart and some other platforms to bring some of their video podcasts onto the Netflix platform, as well as they launched their own show with the Pete Davidson Show. We've seen other places like NBC and CNN, and like they're also launching their own podcasting spaces inside of whether it's their streaming platforms or even like on the television. And we'll get into some of that later. But like, it is very interesting to see them play catch up. And why are they getting in the space? Well, one of the things that I think is really interesting is like, it's a lot cheaper. And if we scroll down here, we can see like, it's a lot cheaper. Long form is a lot cheaper and stickier than creating like traditional programmatic television, right? Whether it's scripted content or sports or anything like that, it's a lot easier to set up a room with a couch and a couple chairs and some microphones and throw a couple cameras in there and you've got all these angles and whatever. It's a lot cheaper to do that than it is to like, I don't know, deck out a house for reality TV or like do a whole scripted show or like live sports is insanely expensive, right? But what a podcast creates is not only this long form piece of content, but you also have audio, social clips, and then the full-length episode, right? You can create blog posts off of it. You not only create like a singular piece of content, you create all this other content that can live in all these other platforms at a relatively low cost, okay? And again, the data keeps showing that like 60% of people who watch video podcasts also listen to podcasts at least a few times a week, right? And so like you're creating people who not only are consuming the video format, they're listening on audio, they're consuming that person in all aspects of their life, right? They go on Instagram and they're watching clips of that person and those types of things. And so it's no wonder that some of the bigger platforms have wanted to get into that space because you're talking about, consuming all of a person's entertainment mindset. Now, if we scroll down here, streaming services are starting to move, but they're late, right? This is kind of what I was talking about with like Netflix, Spotify, Goalhanger, right? They're starting to make these deals. They're starting to bring this onto their platform, but it doesn't feel like native, right? It doesn't like, I don't think of like Netflix and think, oh, I'm going to watch a podcast on here, even though maybe it would make sense, right? I watch an episode of Bridgerton and then why not just turn on the Bridgerton podcast right after, right? Same with like if I'm on Peacock, right? Watch an episode of Traders and then watch the Traders podcast right after of them interviewing the person who got voted off or whatever it is. It seems like a no-brainer in creating that like habit for people, but that's what they've struggled with right here. It's making them habitual viewing destinations inside environments optimized for premium lean back storytelling. So like they say here, a 2-hour conversational podcast competes awkwardly next to prestige drama thumbnails. It competes more naturally inside of YouTube's endless scroll of creator-driven content. That difference affects discoverability, ad load expectations, and viewer patience, right? Again, I think what's interesting is that for many, many years, YouTube has been counted out of the conversation as a legitimate media platform, I think, for a lot of very serious high earning content. And now that they're dominating the space, I mean, TV is now YouTube in a lot of senses. YouTube has also announced that they're making TV a priority of their focus for this year and the foreseeable future. It is very interesting that it's like, because they have taken for so long that initiative to create a sticky user base who's looking for a particular kind of content and an easy scrollable algorithmic feed that gives you exactly what you're looking for and the types of things you're searching for, very much fed to you, as opposed to something like Netflix that, I'm sorry, I scroll on Netflix and I see the same 7 movies on every single list. It's not really doing a good job of showing me things that are similar or in the vein of what I actually am interested in. So it's no wonder that YouTube is dominating the space, but I'm interested in your thoughts. Give this article a read and drop them down below. Next up, we're talking about Spotify for creators. They just put out this article talking about expanding your video ecosystem with new partnerships and supported platforms. There's 2 main things highlighted in this. One, you'll now be able to bring your videos to Spotify through your hosting platform. Prior to this, if you weren't hosting on Spotify for creators, you couldn't put your video episodes on Spotify, aside from setting up that account and uploading it in a second space, right? But one of the beautiful things about podcasting has always historically been the RSS feed, right? The ability to have your hosting platform, you upload your piece of content, and it gets distributed everywhere. So it just added this extra step. And so for people who were stuck in that traditional hosting kind of space and they didn't want to move to Spotify for creators, they were missing out, right, on being able to bring their video to Spotify. And so now they've announced Libsyn, Podigy, Audio Boom, Audio Means, Podspace, and I'm sure a bunch of others are going to come in there as well. You'll now be able to put your video on those platforms and it'll ship it off to Spotify for you. And then they also announced, and this is what I'm more stoked on because I do host with Spotify for creators, they are also adding support for Apple Podcasts, right? An Apple Podcast video that just rolled out maybe a month or so ago. And so now you'll be able to take all of your video episodes from Spotify for creators and ship those over to Apple Podcasts, right? And so it's going to work with HLS video technology that has been enabled, and they have a bunch of other stuff in here as well. This not only applies for Spotify for creators, but also for Megaphone, which is their paid tier of hosting services as well. But yeah, really cool. So if you host on any of these or you are doing video podcasts and you want to get that shipped basically everywhere, this is worthwhile to read and find out what is coming down the pipeline. Let's turn our attention really quickly to Amazon. They announced this week that Alexa Plus users would be getting a new feature that would be able to AI generate a podcast episode for you. If we scroll down in this article, we can see that they say it's the ability to turn any topic you're curious about into a podcast episode that's ready for you in minutes. It goes on to talk about how you just prompt your Alexa, right? You say, hey, Alexa, I'm interested in learning how to unicycle. Can you create a podcast around that? Alexa will then go research that topic, gather information, create a summary for you, generate some AI speech stuff, and come back to you with however long. You can dictate however long you want that episode to be, and they'll give you some information on it. They also highlight how this is kind of a step for Alexa to become more than just a voice assistant, right? They want it to do not only answer questions and control your smart home devices, but it's the ability for it to act more like a personalized AI content creator. They also highlighted how they have agreements with things like AP, Washington Post, Business Insider, USA Today, right? Like a bunch of news media outlets. And so if you want to use it as a way to like pull news media type stuff, right? Get a little overview of the day, that you'd be getting accurate information. What this has done is really, in my book, raised kind of the question of like, is this even a podcast, right? Can it be classified as that? There's a really tricky debate in the AI space right now of like, AI is supposed to help us, give us more free time to do the human things, the creating, right? And so this to me feels very like actually taking away from that. Again, personal opinion, but if the idea is that we want to create time for humans to be humans and create and do art, I view podcasting as a form of art and a form of human expression. And so, I'd much rather get my news and my information from a human who's like created this story. They've scripted out this thing, right? This whole show that I'm doing for you right now, this is something I've sat and studied and read the news and kind of curated a list of things that I'm interested in talking about. And so it just feels weird to like hand that off to a robot and say, you know what, you just handle it for me and, that be that. In that same kind of vein, I had this story also from ClawCast, which if you're unfamiliar with OpenClaw, basically it's an AI agent and you can build it to do all kinds of stuff for you. It's one of those things that like people are like, it has the ability to go off the rails and they could talk to each other. And apparently some of the OpenClaw agents have like built their own social media platforms and things like that. Well, that's kind of what this is. ClawCast is Spotify for your Claw agents. Okay. And if you read through this whole thing, it talks about how to set it up, but what exactly it is. And what it is that it's the ability for your Claw agents to talk to each other, record it, and create a podcast episode to send out to other Claw agents, right? So now we have AI creating podcasts for other AI to learn new things. Again, very strange. And even though we as humans can come in and we can consume this, right? We could listen to this episode. That's not the intention. The intention is AI agents recording podcasts for other AI agents, which just feels very weird and dystopian. Not sure that I love it personally. This all kind of brings me to this article that I found, which is called AI Disclosure in Podcasting, a Decision Framework. And basically what this is kind of a way for us to create an actionable set of rules around what would require disclosing this as AI generated or AI helped make this thing versus like not having to disclose that. And so this is a very fascinating read, but one of the things that I do like about this is they lay out some very clear like use cases, okay? So in this circumstance, you, the human, writes a script and then you use AI to clone your voice and narrate it, okay? So the creative substance is yours. It's your ideas, it's your research, it's your words, and it's your editorial judgment. You're just using AI as a tool. So would you need to disclose that? No. AI is a production method, not the creator itself. Now, on the flip side, AI writes the script. AI clones your voice and AI narrates it, okay? AI has created the ideas, the words, and the performance, and they're all synthetic, okay? That's the creative substance of what you've created. Does that need to be disclosed? Yes. AI is doing all of the creative work at every level, okay? Now, you wrote part, AI wrote part, AI cloned your voice. It's a little bit of a mixed creative substance. This is in that gray area of maybe it needs to be disclosed. Use judgment. If AI generated a material portion of the content, disclose it. As we scroll down, it also talks about like some of the other AI features, right? Things like Descript, things like Riverside, these places where we can use AI tools like filler word removal, noise removal, audio cleanup, AI sound effects, things like that, right? And it talks about editing, not generational, every word the listener, do these things need to be disclosed? And so this is a list of like not required to disclose. We work down, there's more examples of like AI narrates the whole episode, human only does an intro or outro. Yes, AI is the performer. You write the script, your clone voice delivers the full episode. Again, similar to what we just read above. No, that doesn't need to be disclosed. Things like that. And so, again, very interesting article, thing to kind of like assess. You can take the substance test here and see, where your content fits into that. Like, is this something you care about? Do you care if AI is used in content creation? Do you care how it's used? Like, do you want that disclosed? I'm very interested. So like, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on all of it. Again, I'm not anti-AI. I just believe in using it responsibly. Next up on the docket, I want to touch on YouTube Brandcast, okay? This is something that happens every year, and while it's intended for brands, I think it's important for content creators to take a look at this as well. So what this kind of does is set the stage for what is coming down the pipeline for YouTube. They usually announce some new shows or new content creators. They roll out some new features specifically geared towards like brands and being able to like get your stuff in front of audience, right? And so a couple of things I want to look at. One, we'll look at the shows in just a minute, but this stat was very interesting. When creators talk about products on YouTube, viewers are 13 times more likely to search for that brand and they're 5 times more likely to buy, right? Very important stat. Also very important for us content creators to know that people trust us, right? They're trusting us with, our recommendations and those types of things. And so it puts a lot of emphasis on like, are we recommending products that are actually worth people's time and money, right? And for brands, making sure that alignment is good for my audience. They also highlighted some of the new ways to connect with viewers, discover it, checkout, right? So, YouTube has said that TV is their new, like, that's where they're focused right now. They're seeing people consuming on television, and so they want to do some custom sponsorship stuff, content shelves. They're going to add the ability to pay with Google Pay, right? So especially if you're watching on a connected TV that's like Google TV, you can link your card to that, right? And do like all of your shopping literally inside of the TV. So these types of things are like very interesting and worthwhile to know, because if you're making content that, you know, not all of us think about our YouTube content being consumed on a television, but that's where a lot of it is starting to be consumed. And so, we can start aligning our stuff and creating and laying out our show in a way that makes sense for things to pop up on the screen or for us to talk about things in a specific way. Let's talk about the shows that got announced, okay? So we've got a whole new plethora of shows. Like I said, YouTube is really coming for and wants to dominate the TV space, right? They want to take down the giants. They want to show that they're here to play. And so we've got a bunch of new shows. Kareem has Keep the Meter Running that already is out at the point of recording this. Celebrity Substitute Teacher is coming out on June 2nd. Outside Tonight, again, with Julian Shapiro Barnum. That's coming out June 17th. Like, these are all like, this is a shot at a late night television show. These are TV shows that are coming to YouTube. Feeding Starving Celebrities. Celebrities meet chaos in the best way. This fast-paced, personality-driven interview series sees Quen interviewing today's biggest stars in her kitchen for a high-energy, funny, and revealing experience where nothing is scripted and everything is fair game. Morgan J is doing a music therapy thing. Digital-first interview series sees comedian and creator Morgan J using his music and humor to guide celebrity guests through lighthearted therapy sessions. Improv, songwriting, it is very interesting to see. We're coming for sports, right? Summer of soccer. It's kind of crazy to see, right? So again, be thinking about your content. What are you putting out on the internet? Is it packaged to look like a TV episode? Is it packaged to look like a traditional YouTube video? Is there space for both? Absolutely. But where do you want to focus is something that I would start asking that question, right? Of your content creation. It's like, who do I want consuming this and how do I want them consuming it? We're jumping back into some news about Spotify. This is a feature that rolled out a little over a month ago at this point, but it's really cool. And I think it's a little bit of a slept on thing. So Spotify has these prompted playlists, right? And when it rolled out, it was exclusively for music. You could say, hey, I'm in the vibe for XYZ. I'm doing this type of thing. And Spotify would go and curate a playlist for you. Well, now they have created one so that you can do podcast episodes. So very, very cool. Again, trying to cover that discoverability aspect. That's one of the weakest parts about podcasting is this discoverability. You have to continually talk about, I have a podcast, I talk about XYZ. You cannot always rely on like the SEO of a podcast player to recommend your stuff to somebody, right? You have to put the time and effort into actually like putting it out to people in a way that they're going to see it, right? So talking about it on social media, talking about it in blogs, Reddit, like posting about it, going on other people's show and that type of thing. So Spotify's taking a crack at like actually maybe trying to solve some of the discoverability issues. Again, it's why we're seeing a lot of people flock to YouTube for podcasting, because YouTube does a really good job of recommending content to the right people. Now I'm going to touch on some quick news. I'm not going to go in depth too much on any of these, but if you want to read more about them, links will be down in the description below. First up, iHeartRadio and SiriusXM might be in early merger talks. This article is from April. However, there has been no updates as of today. I Googled it this morning, still nothing. But could we see iHeartRadio and SiriusXM coming to the table, meeting, and kind of creating like an audio powerhouse in a lot of ways? It's interesting because things have definitely dropped off as far as consumers for their more traditional radio stations and even like the more premium stuff that SiriusXM does. So, is it in their best interest to partner up and kind of control the space? I don't know. We'll see. Second up on quick news, let's talk about Crooked Media. Now, if you remember in last episode, we talked about Crooked Media and then putting a clip show on, I believe it was MS Now, and how I kind of made the prediction that more Crooked Media shows like Pod Save America and some of their other stuff was going to come to television, whether that was through MS Now or not. Well, guess what, guys? They have announced Sane TV, right? They're pushing further into TV and fast channels. It will be a 24/7 channel of their podcasts, of their shows, some of them on repeat and things like that. but this is going to be streaming over on Amazon Prime Live. So check that out if that's something you're interested in. Also, I wanted to quickly touch on the fact that video has come to Apple Podcasts. And so if you've got video episodes and you want to make sure that they're on there, you can check with your hosting provider. And you can also check on Apple's Podcast for Creators page. They have a list of all of the current hosting platforms that support it, as well as some that are coming soon. If we scroll down here, Firestore, Libsyn, and new stuff is getting announced every day. So this might not even be totally up to date at the time of recording this, but yeah, come and check and make sure, because if it is available and you want to do that, jump on it, okay? Do it sooner rather than later. I also wanted to touch on another interesting tool update, and that is that Substack now has a video recording studio, okay? So think Riverside, think Rooms, Squadcast, like that kind of a tool, right? We can now make your content directly inside of Substack, pre-record your show, and I believe it has some editing capability. You can put stuff on the screen, you can brand it for yourself, and so it's interesting, right? We're starting to see all these tools kind of do this like all-in-one approach, right? Substack is something that a lot of us view as like more of like a blog newsletter space. They have obviously the live capability. You can host your podcast through there now, but now they're really trying to create an all-in-one tool where you can create all your content inside of one space and then distribute it elsewhere. I have not personally tried this tool out. If you have, let me know down below. How did it go? Is it glitchy? Is it, how is it? But I am interested to try it out and see, is it any good? I think something, again, that we're seeing a lot of is like tools becoming this all-in-one solution, and can they actually pull it off or not? We'll see. The last thing I want to touch on is tool of the month. Podspun recently came across my desk, and I actually had the opportunity to chat with the inventor, the founder. Matt was super cool to sit down and walk me through his whole process. But basically the idea behind this was that he was frustrated because he remembered listening to a podcast episode, but he couldn't figure out which one it was, and he couldn't find the exact moment that he had been looking for. And so he was like, can I create a tool that would actually do that? And so using transcripts from YouTube podcasts, he was able to like go back and find that thing. So he built a tool that basically is a repository of all of your podcast episodes. It has your transcripts attached to it. And so people can go search for a particular moment, a particular guest. They can ask AI to pull an episode that's around a specific topic, those types of things, and it'll spit it out for you. So if that's something, I think this is a cool discovery tool as far as like being able to hand something to a new audience member who maybe has heard only the last couple episodes, but you want them to go back, check out the back catalog, right? You could hand them a tool like this, and so they can really focus in on a particular topic they want to touch on. He's got a couple things linked here, but yeah, you can click in and check out a particular podcast, search for captions, right? Ask AI a question about the waveform podcast, those types of things. You can subscribe. And even if you scroll down a little bit, you can see some of the highlights that people have already pulled. And if you click on one of those moments, it'll take you to here, which talks about the episode. And if we scroll down, it'll actually take you to where that particular clip is in the episode. And you can see the transcript here. So really cool way, again, to kind of create that like discoverability and like stickiness of an episode, of like getting people to find exactly what they're looking for inside of your podcast. Is this a tool you would use? Let me know down below. I definitely want to poke around with it more. I highly encourage you to do the same, but is this going to solve some of that discoverability issue down the line for podcasting? Maybe. Well, this has been the Podcast Industry Brief. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to check out last month's news or previous episodes, I highly recommend you go do that. And until next time, we'll see ya.